Welcome to part 2, exploring the question of whether to keep doing DoD work. We're going to cover the basis of how SecureThink does estimates, how our solution works, what's different, and how it might be useful to you. At the end of part 1, we said, we've been doing this work since 2012, which is when we started working with Mike Warner, the Chief Information Security Officer, or CISO, at a Fortune 500 company that's on the list of the DoD's 50 largest primes. The prime had a big contract, which included cybersecurity requirements that map to what CMMC is checking on now. It was a tough slog, but the prime managed to get the authority to operate, except that wasn't the end of it. The prime kept acquiring other companies. Each acquisition became a new challenge. The DoD kept checking, so the prime couldn't let their cybersecurity posture slip. Across the board, the acquired companies didn't have cybersecurity that was good enough to pass muster. Again and again, Mike had to figure out what it was going to cost to fix the situation. What was the one-time lift? What was the bump for ongoing cost? The best part is that we tracked actual costs against our estimates. It's one thing to get an estimate. It's quite another to pay the actual bill. The implementation cycle takes many months, so tracking the costs for the whole cycle isn't so easy, and very few have done it more than once. An important part of the story is that the approach we take on CMMC planning was created to solve the problem for what CMMC calls the Organization Seeking Assessment, or the OSA. When you talk to some resources, their proposal is based on a shared responsibility matrix. That's a list of things that need to happen, where the vendor takes responsibility for some of them and you keep responsibility for the rest. Know that there are always some things only you can do for CMMC. Anyone who tells you that they can do it all for you without your active involvement is blowing smoke. We created this strategy from Mike Warner's point of view. He was in your shoes. The SecureThink approach considers everything that must be done because, as far as CMMC is concerned, the OSA is on the hook for all of it. If you hire something out, you still need to supervise that resource, and you are accountable for the outcome. The foundation for what we're going to show you is that OSA perspective, your perspective. Why can you trust what you're hearing? Well, depending on where you're watching this video, there may be links in the comments below or elsewhere on this website. If not, you can find everything I'm about to say on the SecureThink website, securethink.com. What kind of info am I talking about? Well, the backstory about the security program that Mike created at the Prime and how it was inspected and validated by the DoD. The scoop about our relevant experience and our degrees and our certifications, because you would expect that from seasoned senior practitioners. You can find all those details in those links or on our website. Mike spent 12 years in the CISO's chair at that Prime, and we were his external consultant for the last 10 of those years. Mike is no longer working for the large Prime, but before he left, the program passed a DIBCAC high confidence assessment with a perfect score of 110. That exercise is what translates to a CMMC Level 2 status. Once Mike was a free agent, he became our collaborator at SecureThink. Together, we took that process that we had only ever done internally at the large Prime, and we created a solution that's a great fit for many of the companies that are staring down the decision about whether to take on CMMC. Please note, I said this is a good fit for many companies. It's not for everyone, and we're sorry about that, but better be straight about it up front. Our experience says that you should have at least $2.5 million each year in DoD work to get good value out of working with us. So how does this work? Well, you need to get a handle on the costs of CMMC as the basis for your business decision. A lot of organizations aren't doing this, and there's a good reason. Let me show you a picture. Most CMMC experts say that to get an estimate, Oh, just a minute. Let's start the slideshow here. There we are. To get an estimate, step one is a gap analysis. But that by itself doesn't give you a cost estimate. So you have no choice but to move forward with step two. That's plan and design. You don't get a cost estimate to make a business decision until the end of step two. How much will it take? How much will it cost to get to that estimate when you do it that way? Well, it depends. This approach is a bottom-up estimate. It gets into a lot of details, and it usually takes weeks or even months. Most companies don't have the skills internally, so you have to hire a consultant. Because of all the detail in this approach, the consultant doesn't know what to expect up front, so they bill time and materials. If you see the numbers and decide it's a no-go, you still have sunk costs. At SecureThink, we take a very different approach. We do a top-down estimate when just about everyone else does theirs from the bottom up. Relative to optimizing your business decision, since everyone everywhere says step one is a gap analysis, we call what we do step zero. Your step zero report will include all of the costs for all of the rest of the steps. This is key to what we said about taking the viewpoint of the organization seeking assessment. It also means this approach comes with a built-in reality check. Let me explain. Assuming you see the step zero numbers and decide to move forward, step one and step two work will happen just like all the experts, including us, say that it should. At the end of step two, you'll still get a bottom-up estimate, and that will give you a chance to do a reality check before you greenlight step three. Step three is the full execution of the project plan, and so that's where most of the one-time spend occurs. Something else you'll get in the step zero report is an estimate of your ongoing costs. Remember in the part one video, we talked about how the CFO complained about projects that they keep discovering more costs as they go along. He said it was drip, drip, drip like water torture. Well, the ongoing maintenance costs are a good example of that. They're usually an afterthought of the one-time project. It usually gets calculated as step three is wrapping up. And usually the project manager has to be reminded by the business stakeholder that it's something that they need. It's an important point that the SecureThink top-down estimate includes those ongoing costs up front. That means this info can inform your business decision from the very beginning. Here again, our approach comes with a built-in reality check. All the work still happens, so down the road, when the one-time project is close to completion, you can ask your program manager for that bottom-up estimate. So putting this all together, we're talking about a way to get the best of both approaches. Top-down estimates have long been regarded as strategic for decision-making. Meanwhile, bottom-up information is tactical because you break the project down into all the detailed pieces, and that's also what takes so much time and effort. We are ourselves, Mike and the SecureThink team, we're engineers with very technical backgrounds, so we deeply respect all the details. But we're also business people, and we maintain that there is a time and a place for getting into the weeds. Each approach has its strengths. By using the right tool at the right time, you get the best of both. So what about cost? Well, we've already looked at how the costs build for the typical scenario. So what's the cost for the SecureThink approach? We charge a flat fee for the Step Zero report. Our philosophy is that our fee should be noise level relative to the decision the solution helps you make. Because if you see your Step Zero report and greenlight the project, you'll have a solid estimate for the cost step one and step two before those begin. And you'll be moving forward with your eyes open and a sound financial forecast for everything else, including the ongoing costs. If you decide to stop doing DoD work, you can sleep better at night knowing you took a serious look at the value proposition before you made that call, and your sunk costs will be minimal. Speaking of decision-making, lots of companies want or need to get on with it. A Step Zero report can be very fast. In many cases, we can offer a 3-day turnaround. As we've covered, this compares to the typical process, which usually takes many weeks and often several months. There's another differentiator. The accuracy of our top-down estimate has been verified. We don't know anyone else who can say that. We tracked actual costs and verified our estimates against a dozen real-world implementations. So we lean into a base of historical facts that few can match. Remember our motivation. Mike was in your shoes, and he had to do it again and again. He knew there would always be another time. Realize, too, that just like you, he was fully accountable for his budget. So we took pains to know what our range of accuracy is, and that's one of the details we're happy to discuss for those who are interested enough to sign a mutual non-disclosure agreement or an NDA. Here's a summary of all the points we've covered about what's different with the SecureThink approach. And there's one more: no strings attached. For most of our Step 0 clients, the report is enough. Usually the agreement includes a little consulting time to answer any questions you have about your specific report or situation. Often we're introduced to our Step 0 clients by one of their trusted advisors. If the project gets a green light, it's the trusted advisor who takes over with Step 1 and so on. We're good with that. It's what we mean by no strings attached. So if what you've heard so far is interesting, please join us for the Part 3 video, where we'll cover pricing, especially the CMMC Data Exchange Program for DIB companies.